Do you know why you're here right now? Not just sitting, watching, listening. I mean here, in this exact moment, in this place of your life, in the middle of everything you're carrying, everything you're questioning. It's not random. You didn't find this by accident. You didn't scroll into this message by chance. I brought you here. Yes, I, Jesus, brought you. Because there is something in your heart that's been crying out louder than any words you've said out loud. Maybe you've smiled today. Maybe you answered messages, did your tasks, kept your rhythm, but I've seen what no one else saw. I've seen the tiredness in your eyes when you thought no one noticed. I've heard the thoughts you whispered when the lights were off and everyone had gone quiet. And I've felt your silence, that deep silence that no noise can cover. You've been carrying something for too long, haven't you? You've been waiting for clarity, for peace, for healing, for something to make sense again. And though you've kept walking, you've started to wonder if you're going in circles. But let me tell you now, with all the love I carry for you, there is meaning in your steps, even when you don't see the path. Write this in the comments as a step of faith. Even in silence, I trust God's hand. Don't just write it for others. Write it as a whisper from your soul. A declaration that says, Lord, I don't need to understand everything to believe you're leading me. I know you've questioned. I know you've thought, why this? Why now? Why me? And I don't despise those questions. I understand them because I carried questions too. In Gethsemane, I asked the Father if the cup could pass. I wept. I waited. I trusted. And now I'm asking you to walk with me, even when the road ahead is not yet clear. In the next few minutes, I will reveal 15 spiritual keys. Not just teachings, not just ideas, but divine truths that will unlock healing, restoration, and purpose in your spirit. These are not empty words. Each one is a door, and I am standing at the threshold with you, holding the handle, waiting to walk you through. There's a reason your soul feels pulled right now, even if you can't explain it. There's a reason tears are forming without logic, a reason your heart is opening in ways it hasn't in a long time. Because this is more than a video. This is an encounter. I'm not here to impress you. I'm here to touch you. Stay with me to the end. Not because I demand it, but because I desire it, because I know what's waiting on the other side of your yes. At the end of this message, I want us to pray together, not just with words, but with hearts wide open. A prayer that might be the beginning of something you've been longing for but couldn't name. And when we arrive at the final key, I want you to know, it's not just a conclusion. It might be the moment your soul has waited years for, the one answer, the one light, the one shift that changes how you see everything. So stay with me all the way through. Your spirit might receive exactly what it's been crying out for in the hidden places. This isn't just a channel. This is a sanctuary, a place for the weary, the wandering, the hopeful, a place for hearts like yours. So if this voice is already echoing something within you, subscribe, activate the bell, and walk this road with me. We're not building numbers here. We're building faith, one soul at a time. Now let me ask you something, and don't just hear the words, feel them. Have you ever stood in a room full of people and still felt unknown? Have you ever smiled while your soul was breaking? Have you ever looked at the sky and whispered, "Do you see me?" I do. I see your beginning and your becoming. I see the tears you wiped away before anyone could ask. I see the strength you used just to make it through this week. And I see the faith that brought you here. Yes, it was faith, even if it felt small, because even the smallest seed moves my heart. So here's my invitation. Let me walk you through each key. Let me speak into places no one else has ever touched. Let me remind you of who you are and whose you are. I'm not here to add weight to your burden. I'm here to lift it, one truth at a time, one breath at a time, one promise at a time. And when your heart starts to feel that warmth, that stirring, that strange but beautiful peace, That's not emotion, that's me. Are you ready? Then stay close. The first key is about to be revealed, and it begins not with strength, but with surrender. Key 1. Surrender unlocks clarity. There are moments in life when clarity feels like a far-off dream. You wake up, you move, you function, but somewhere inside, there's a quiet ache that says, I'm not sure where I'm going. The days pass. The obligations pile. You pray, sometimes whispering, sometimes crying out. Yet heaven feels distant, and answers seem delayed. You try to make sense of what's happening, but the more you think, the more fog surrounds you. There's a silent question tucked in the back of your mind. God, why can't I see? But what if I told you that what you call confusion is sometimes protection? That what feels like silence is sometimes preparation? That before I show you what's ahead, I often wait for you to give me what you're holding too tightly, surrender. It's the first key, not because it's the easiest, but because it's the most necessary. Before clarity comes, surrender must take place. Because you see, the heart that clings to its own way cannot fully embrace mine, and I am not withholding answers from you. I am inviting you into alignment. I'm not punishing your questions. I am preparing your soul to carry the weight of my response. Close your eyes for a moment and imagine this. A child standing on the edge of a cliff, looking out over a vast landscape. She holds tightly to a map, one she drew herself, filled with scribbles and assumptions, arrows pointing in different directions. But the wind begins to tug at that paper. It flaps. It resists. She grips it tighter. She doesn't want to lose control. But just beyond the edge of that cliff stands a guide, wise, kind, patient, holding the real map. And he waits, not demanding, not forcing, just standing, waiting for her to release her version so he can place the true one in her hands. That child is you, and I am the guide. And that moment is now. You don't need to understand everything in order to trust me. You don't need to see the full picture to walk with confidence. In fact, sometimes the clarity you long for will only come after you've laid down the pressure to figure it all out. Think of Abraham. I told him to leave everything, his country, his people, his comfort, and go to a place I would show him. I didn't give him coordinates. I didn't lay out the route. I simply said, go. And he went. Do you know why that story still echoes through generations? Because Abraham's surrender opened the way for divine clarity. Because sometimes obedience precedes revelation, and often you must move before you see. Surrender is not about giving up. It's about giving over. It's not weakness. It's trust. It's the soul saying, even if I don't understand, I believe you do. And I do. You might be asking, but how do I surrender when everything in me wants to hold on? And I tell you gently, you don't have to do it alone. Even surrender begins with grace. Let me help you. Let me enter the places of resistance in your heart. I'm not here to shame your struggle. I'm here to walk through it with you. Surrendering is not a one-time decision. It's a posture, a rhythm, a way of living. It's the quiet yes in the face of uncertainty. It's the open hands when everything inside you wants to clench. It's the choice to lay your plans at my feet and say, your will, not mine. I know that's hard, especially when you've been disappointed, especially when you've trusted before and felt let down. But hear me, I never waste a single moment of your journey. Every detour, every delay, every tear has been held in my hands. I see what you don't. I know what you can't. And my ways are always higher, always better, even when they feel unfamiliar. Let me take you back to Gethsemane, the night before the cross. I was there in the garden, overwhelmed with sorrow. I fell to the ground and prayed, Father, if it is possible, take this cup from me, yet not as I will, but as you will. That was surrender. Not from a place of ease, but from the depths of anguish. It wasn't neat, it wasn't painless, but it was holy. And from that surrender, came the resurrection. From that yes came your redemption. So don't despise the place you're in now, even if it feels like Gethsemane. Your surrender might look like tears, like silence, like trembling hands. That's okay. It's still surrender, and heaven receives it with honor. Maybe you're standing in the middle of a situation right now, a decision, a closed door, a broken relationship, a health crisis, and all you want is a clear answer. All you want is for me to say, go here, do this, fix that. But instead I'm saying this, let go. Come closer, trust me. I don't just want to guide your steps. I want to hold your heart. I want to take what's heavy and carry it for you. I want to trade your fear for peace, your confusion for stillness. But that exchange can only happen when you release what's in your hands. So here's what I invite you to do right now, wherever you are. Open your hands, physically if you can, just for a moment. Let your shoulders drop. Let your breath slow. Let the tension go. And whisper this with me. I surrender, even when I don't understand. This is not weakness. This is strength born of faith. This is the kind of posture that heaven honors and responds to. If this truth is stirring something inside you, stay close. This journey is just beginning. I will not leave you halfway through. I will not leave you in the middle of the process. I'm walking every step with you. And each key will build upon the last, unlocking more of my purpose, more of my presence, more of my power in your life. And now, I want you to do something bold. Not for me, for you. Write in the comments the one thing you're choosing to surrender today. Maybe it's a plan, maybe it's a fear, maybe it's control. Whatever it is, let this act of naming it become your offering. Let the words carry your decision into the spiritual realm. Because when you surrender, heaven moves. And don't be surprised if clarity begins to find you in unexpected ways, in a quiet moment, in a conversation, in a verse you've read 100 times but suddenly feels new. That's how I speak. That's how I lead, with tenderness, with precision, with love. And just as the fog lifts after the storm, just as the dawn breaks through the longest night, so too will my voice bring light to your path. You may not understand everything now, but one day you will look back and see that this moment, this first step of surrender, was the key that unlocked it all. And still, this is only the beginning. Because in the next key, we will go deeper. We will explore what it means to wait with me. Not just for me. What if the delay you dread is actually the space where I want to speak most clearly? What if learning to wait is not about patience, but about preparation? Stay with me. Don't rush ahead. The next step is not just another teaching. It's an invitation to rest in divine timing. And that's where we'll go next. Key 2. Waiting is not wasted time. I see you, sitting in the hallway between where you were and where you hope to be. Your hands have done all they can. Your prayers have risen like incense, and still silence. You check the doors around you. They're still shut. You glance down the corridor of your future, and it feels blurry, uncertain. You wonder, why hasn't anything changed yet? Waiting. It's a word your soul doesn't like. A word that feels like stillness when you long for movement, like absence when you crave presence. And yet, if you knew what I was building in your waiting, you wouldn't despise it so quickly. This isn't punishment. This isn't delay for delay's sake. This is holy ground. There is something I can do in the waiting that I cannot do in your rushing. And I need you to hear me now. Waiting does not mean I've forgotten you. It doesn't mean I've abandoned your prayers or ignored your pain. It means I'm shaping something sacred in you and around you that only time, silence, and surrender can bring forth. Think of a seed buried deep in the earth. It's hidden, unseen, and yet it is not dead. Under the soil, transformation is taking place. Roots are stretching, systems are being prepared. What appears to be still is actually active. That's what waiting is like in my hands. I want you to look at your life the way I do, not moment by moment, but seed by seed. You planted faith, you watered it with trust. But growth takes time, and I do not rush the things I love. I shape them slowly, beautifully, deliberately, because they are eternal. Let me take you to the story of Joseph. You know him, the dreamer with a colorful coat. I gave him a vision early, didn't I? A glimpse of his destiny. But before the palace came the pit, before the crown came the prison. Years passed between the promise and its fulfillment. Years filled with confusion, betrayal, false accusations. But those years were not wasted. They were working. Joseph was not ready for what I had prepared until the waiting did its work inside him, and the same is true for you. You want the fulfillment of my promises, and that's good. But I also want the formation of your character. I want you strong enough to carry what I give, rooted enough not to be shaken, soft enough to hear me when the noise of the world gets loud. That happens in the waiting. There are things I whisper in silence that you'd miss in the noise. There are depths I reach in stillness that rushing would trample over. So yes, I allow you to wait, not to hurt you, but to heal you, to protect you, to deepen you. You may feel overlooked, but you are actually being overshadowed by my hand. You may feel forgotten, but I have engraved your name on my heart. You may feel stagnant, but I am stirring things in the unseen that will change everything at the right time. I am not a minute late. I never have been. I never will be. But I know how painful it can feel when the clock keeps ticking and heaven feels quiet. I know the ache of hoping again and again, and watching the same door remain shut. I know the moments when you wonder if you heard me wrong, if maybe it was just emotion, not promise. I've seen your heart begin to close because you're afraid of disappointment. And yet, I ask you gently, can you still trust me when nothing moves? Can you worship me not for what I give, but for who I am? Can you believe that I am still working, even here? I'm not asking for blind faith. I'm asking for rooted faith. Faith that leans back into my heart, even when the view ahead is foggy. Faith that says, I don't know how long this hallway is, but I'll wait here if you're here too. Because I am. This place, right now, this long pause, this still season, is not empty. It's full of me. And you don't need to do more. You don't need to strive. You don't need to prove your devotion through motion. You need only to rest in me, to learn the art of being still, to breathe deeper, to allow peace to rise in the very place where anxiety has tried to live. Say this aloud with me now. I am not forgotten. I am being formed. If this resonates with your spirit, I invite you to write in the comments, I will wait on the Lord, even here. Let this be your confession, your declaration, your reminder, because the enemy wants you to equate stillness with abandonment. But in my kingdom, stillness is often the birthplace of miracles. The womb is silent before it gives birth. The tree is still before it blossoms. The dawn is dark before it rises. And so too are you being held in a divine pause before the light breaks forth. You are not stuck. You are not left behind. You are being aligned. And what comes after this season, what I have prepared, will make sense of every tear, every unanswered question, every slow hour you thought was wasted. You'll see, I promise you will see, but for now, stay. Not because you have to, because you want to, because somewhere in your spirit you know, I am near, I am faithful. I'm not done writing your story. You are in chapter 2 of a 15-part revelation, and each key builds on the last. So if you found me here, in this moment of waiting, know that there is more, so much more. Let me close this part with a question, and I ask it not to burden you, but to lead you deeper. What if this waiting is actually a gift? What if I am doing more for you in this silence than I could in 1,000 words. That is where we go next. In the next key, we'll unlock what it means to hear my voice again, not just with your ears, but with your heart, even when the world is loud, even when you're unsure, because sometimes the whisper is more powerful than the thunder. Stay close. I'm not done speaking, and you're not done receiving. Key 3. My whisper is louder than the noise. You hear so many voices each day. Some speak through people, others through screens, some through your own fears, and some, sadly, through wounds you thought had already healed. The world is loud, demands are loud, expectations are loud, and somewhere in the middle of all that noise you've begun to wonder, can I still hear him? But what if I told you that I've never stopped speaking? That my voice didn't disappear, it just softened, that I'm not competing with the world's chaos? Because I never raise my voice to be heard, I whisper. And here's why that matters. Because you only hear a whisper when you're close. You've been looking for me in the signs, in the obvious, in the big gestures. You've asked me for a clear word, a lightning bolt, a visible breakthrough. And there have been times I've answered like that. I parted the Red Sea, didn't I? I called Lazarus from the tomb. But do you remember Elijah? He was desperate, running, exhausted, hiding in a cave. He wanted me to show up in power, in wind, in fire, in earthquake, but I wasn't in any of those. When I finally came, it was in a whisper, a still, small voice. And in that whisper, Elijah found everything his soul was longing for. Peace, purpose, presence. That's what I want for you. You don't need to perform to hear me. You don't need to prove yourself or get everything right. I'm not withholding my voice to punish you. I whisper to draw you close. Because what I want more than anything is not just for you to follow my voice. I want you to know my heart. When you're surrounded by noise, by opinions, anxieties, distractions, your spirit can become overwhelmed. But I want to teach you how to quiet the chaos, not by escaping the world, but by entering into my presence in the middle of it. That's what prayer really is. It's not always about asking. Sometimes it's just sitting with me, breathing with me, being still enough to know that I am God. Can I invite you to do something simple right now? Close your eyes, unless you're driving, of course, and take a slow breath in. Feel the weight leave your shoulders. Let your thoughts settle like leaves on a still lake. And in this stillness, I want you to hear this not just as a phrase, but as a truth spoken straight into your spirit. I am here. Let those words echo within you. I am not far. I am not silent. I am not disinterested. I'm here. You've questioned my voice because it didn't sound like what you expected, but now you're learning. My voice is peace in the storm. It's conviction without shame. It's comfort without condition. It's gentle, but it never compromises truth. And when you truly hear it, something inside you finally rests. There have been moments in your life where you didn't realize it was me, a thought that calmed your anxiety, a verse that found you at the exact right time, a person who said the words you needed to hear. That was me, speaking in ways your heart could understand. I speak through my word, through stillness, through beauty, through tears, through worship. And yes, through the quiet voice inside you that nudges you toward love, courage, and peace. But hearing me isn't just about listening. It's about recognizing. And to recognize my voice, you have to know me. That's why I want you close, not just to guide your steps, but to show you who I really am. I am not distant. I am not angry. I am not vague. I am near. I am love, and I am intentional. I speak because I care. I whisper because I want intimacy. I call your name because I know your heart. So ask yourself today, have I been mistaking his silence for absence? Or is he inviting me into deeper closeness where I can hear the whisper again? If this question touched something in you, pause and write in the comments. Speak, Lord. I am listening. Let it be your response, not to a video, but to me. A sacred confession that your ears and your spirit are open once again. Because when you make space to listen, I always speak. You don't need to fear missing my voice. If you're seeking me, you're already hearing me more than you realize. My sheep know my voice, even when they can't explain it, even when the words are few. It's that pull in your chest, that clarity in confusion, that peace that doesn't make sense. That's me. And now, I want you to trust this. The more you quiet the noise, the louder my whisper becomes, not in volume, but in impact. One word from me can reroute your destiny. One whisper can unravel years of fear. One divine phrase can awaken a sleeping dream. You don't need 1,000 confirmations. You need one encounter. So begin today. Make space for silence. Carve out moments where you turn off the voices that drain you and tune in to the one that restores you. It doesn't need to be perfect. It doesn't need to be long. It only needs to be real. Invite me to speak and believe that I will. And here's what happens when you do. Suddenly, the world doesn't seem so loud anymore. The things that used to stress you begin to lose their grip, and my whisper becomes the compass that leads you forward, not with pressure, but with peace. Let me be your guide, not just in decisions, but in identity, in rest, in relationships, in your inner world. Let my voice become the one you trust more than any other. And remember, even if you've wandered, even if you stopped listening, my voice is still calling. I never stopped, and you're hearing it now, even in these words. This is not just a script, this is a moment. And in the next key, we will go deeper into how to walk daily with that whisper. Not just hear it once and forget, but to live from it. Because hearing my voice is only the beginning. The next step is following where it leads. But for now, breathe, be still, rest. The noise cannot drown me out, because my whisper was meant for your heart, not your ears. And your heart is listening now. Key 4. Following me is a daily invitation, not a one-time decision. You've heard my voice, sometimes clearly, sometimes like a faint whisper in a storm. And now your heart stirs with the question, what comes next? That's the right question. Not, how do I earn his love? Not, what should I fix first? Simply this, what does walking with Jesus look like today? You see, following me was never meant to be a one-time event. It's not just the moment you raised your hand, said a prayer, or felt a deep emotion at an altar. Those moments are real, sacred even, but they are only the beginning. What I desire most is daily communion, a walking together, a friendship that weathers joy and sorrow, noise and silence, certainty and questions. I never said, accept me once and then return to your old path. I said, follow me. Not as a demand, but as an invitation, not to enslave, but to free. Because in following there is alignment. In walking with me, your spirit remembers who it truly is, not what the world calls you, but what I've named you since before you were born. So let's walk together today. Let's begin not with grand gestures, but with the quiet turning of your heart in my direction, before the world begins to speak, with its noise, its pressure, its impossible standards. I want to be the first voice you hear, the first hand you hold, the first thought that anchors you. When you wake up, ask me, Jesus, where are you leading me today? Not where are you going, but where we are going. Let it be the day's first prayer, even before you open your eyes fully. Because when your steps begin with me, your whole day shifts into divine rhythm. This is what following me looks like, choosing me again and again in the middle of everything. In the rush of traffic, in the decision at work, in the small acts no one sees. In the temptation that comes softly, asking for compromise, in the weariness that whispers, give up, in the longing for more, even when you're not sure what more means. I want to be in all of it, not watching from a distance, not checking in only on Sundays, but walking with you like I walked with my disciples. Think about it. I didn't lecture them from a mountain and disappear. I stayed. I cooked with them. We laughed, we wept, we walked dusty roads, we shared silence and storms. That's the kind of presence I offer you still. But here's what I need you to know. Walking with me daily doesn't mean perfection. It means pursuit. It means returning. Every time you stray, every time you forget, every time your feet grow tired. I don't keep a record of how often you wandered. I only look for the next step back toward me. And yes, there will be days when following me feels easy. When the path is clear, your heart is full, your prayers are flowing. But there will also be days when it feels like you're walking in fog, days when the world presses in and your faith feels small. Those are the days I hold you even closer. Those are the days I whisper, keep walking. I'm right beside you. Let me tell you something you may not hear enough. I delight in your desire to follow me, even when it's clumsy, even when you stumble, even when your steps are small, because every sincere step toward me is a celebration in heaven. Not because of your strength, but because of your love. I see how you're trying. I see the way you fight to stay faithful in a world that pulls you in every direction. I see the way you resist the temptation to give in to despair, even when it would be easier. I see your tears. I see your faithfulness, not measured in perfection, but in persistence. You're not alone in this. Even my closest friends, the ones who walked beside me in the flesh, stumbled often. Peter said he would never deny me, then did it 3 times before the sun rose. Thomas doubted. James and John argued over greatness. And yet, I loved them fiercely. I kept calling them. I washed their feet. I died for them. And I do the same for you, because I never called perfect people. I called willing people, and you, even reading this now, you are willing. I can feel it, the way your heart leans toward me, the way you long for more than surface-level faith. The way you hunger for real connection, not religious routine. That hunger, that is my invitation already working inside you. Let's make this real. Today, follow me in the simple things. When you speak, choose kindness over reaction. When you're tired, ask me for strength instead of giving up. When you're tempted to isolate, reach out to someone. When anxiety tries to take over, pause and whisper, Jesus, I trust you. That's following. That's obedience. That's walking with me. And when you fall short, because you will, don't run from me in shame. Run to me in grace. Let me lift you. Let me remind you, we're still on this road together. Say this with me now, aloud if you can. Jesus, I choose to follow you again today. Let those words anchor your morning. And if this message is speaking to your soul, write in the comments. I will follow even when the path is unclear. It's not for others. It's for you. A declaration from your heart to mine. You may not realize it now, but every time you choose me over fear, over pride, over comfort, you are building a life that echoes in eternity. Every step of faith you take, even the hidden ones, is recorded in heaven. There is no wasted obedience, no unseen sacrifice. I see it all, and more than seeing it, I walk it with you. Following me daily is not about rules. It's about relationship. It's not about fear of punishment. It's about love that pulls you closer. You are not a servant begging for favor. You are a child walking with their father, hand in hand, and I never let go. Let me tell you something sacred. You don't have to have it all figured out to follow me. You don't have to be strong all the time. You don't need to know the entire path. You just need to take the next step and trust that I'll be there when your foot touches the ground. Some of you are standing at a crossroads right now, a decision, a risk, a place of uncertainty. You've prayed for a sign, and maybe this message is that sign. Maybe this is me, standing beside you, whispering, let's go forward, together. I won't promise ease. I won't promise every path will be smooth, but I do promise this. You'll never walk alone, and every step taken with me leads somewhere good, even when the terrain is rough. So here is the daily rhythm I offer you. Wake up and turn your heart toward me. Invite me into the mundane and the miraculous. Pause when you feel overwhelmed and find me there. Return when you drift. I'll never close the door. Sleep in peace, knowing I never left your side. And tomorrow, we'll do it again. This is what it means to follow. Not once, but every day. Not perfectly, but intimately. And it's not just your journey anymore, it's ours. In the next key, I want to take you deeper into identity. Because following me daily also means learning who you really are, not through the mirror of the world, but through my eyes. What if you've been believing a name that was never yours? What if the next breakthrough in your faith isn't something you need to do, but someone you need to remember you are? That's where we're going next. But for now, take my hand. Let's keep walking. I'm so proud of you, and I'm not done yet. E5, you are who I say you are. Before you take another step, before you try to earn one more thing, I need you to pause and receive something eternal, something many never truly grasp. Your identity does not come from what you've done. It comes from what I've declared over you. The world has spent years, maybe decades, trying to name you, with its metrics, its opinions, its cruel comparisons. Some names have been spoken over you by people who never truly saw you. Others by the enemy who wants to keep you trapped in shame. And some you've whispered over yourself when no one else was around. Failure, broken, too much, not enough, forgotten, damaged. But I'm here to undo every false name, not with more words but with truth. Eternal truth. Truth that existed before the pain, before the labels, before the lies. Truth that I spoke over your soul before your first breath. You are mine. You are chosen. You are redeemed. You are seen. You are loved, not generically, but specifically, eternally, unshakably. You've tried to measure your worth by how productive you are, how well you're doing, how others respond. But my love doesn't rise and fall with your performance. I don't love you more when you succeed, or less when you fall. I don't withdraw when you're struggling. I don't get tired of forgiving you. I don't change when your emotions shift. I don't walk away. I stayed, even when you felt unworthy. Even when shame tried to convince you to hide. Even when you pulled away. I stayed, and I'm still here. Let me remind you of someone, the woman at the well. She came during the hottest part of the day, not because she enjoyed the heat, but because she was hiding. From stares, from whispers, from the weight of her own past. She came alone, carrying shame like a cloak. But I met her there, not with condemnation, but with compassion. I told her everything about her life, and I loved her anyway. I didn't offer her rules. I offered her living water. That moment changed her, not because her past vanished, but because she saw herself through my eyes for the first time, not as an outcast, not as unworthy, but as known, loved, and called. And the same is true for you. Your past cannot disqualify you. Your wounds do not define you. The things you've hidden do not scare me. I knew every part of your story when I chose you. I knew the highs and the lows, and I still said, you are mine. Say this aloud now, not to impress anyone, not to convince yourself, but to agree with me. I am who Jesus says I am. That truth can't be shaken by your circumstances. It's not based on feelings. It's rooted in my finished work. When I hung on that cross, I didn't just die for your sins. I died to restore your identity, to bring you back home, to remove the shame and clothe you in righteousness. You are no longer a stranger. You are a son. You are a daughter. You are royalty in my kingdom, not because of your merit, but because of my mercy. But I know identity doesn't always feel easy to hold on to, because life has tried to bury it. Experiences have layered on lies. Trauma has etched scars where confidence once lived. But I am here now, gently peeling back every lie, whispering truth until it becomes louder than your doubts. You don't have to strive to become something. You already are someone, loved, called, set apart. Let me ask you something real, something raw. Whose voice have you believed about yourself? Has it been mine? Or has it been the voice of failure, of comparison, of fear? Have you let culture define your value? Or have you returned to the one who knit you together in the secret place? If this is resonating with your soul, I invite you to write in the comments, "I am who Jesus says I am." Not because it feels true every day, but because you're choosing to believe it, and that choice unlocks transformation. And remember this, the enemy isn't just afraid of your progress. He's terrified of you discovering who you truly are. Because once you walk in your identity, fear loses its grip. Shame has no place. You begin to move differently, pray differently, speak differently. You stop begging for approval because you already have mine. Identity is not just a label, it's a weapon. And when you know who you are in me, the darkness cannot manipulate you anymore. You stop reacting from wounds and you start responding from truth. And there's more. Not only have I named you, I've given you a new nature. The old has passed away. The new has come. You're not just trying to behave better. You're becoming who you were always meant to be. The more time you spend with me, the more you'll begin to see it. The more you'll begin to recognize my voice, not just speaking to you, but speaking about you. Let this sink in. I celebrate you. I enjoy you. I delight in who you are becoming. You're not a burden to me. You're not a disappointment. You are a joy. And I'm proud of you, not for what you produce, but for who you are, for your courage to keep going, for the soft yes in your heart that rises up even when everything tells you to quit. So wear my name over your life. Not the name of your past, not the name others tried to stamp on your soul. Wear the name I gave you, beloved, redeemed, mine. Because when you know who you are, you walk in freedom. You stop trying to prove your worth. You stop chasing validation. You start living from a place of abundance. And the world begins to see a glimpse of me through your life. And that's the point. In the next key, I'll show you how to walk in authority from this identity, how to stand when the enemy attacks, how to pray with confidence, how to resist lies without collapsing under their weight. Because identity is the soil, but authority is the fruit. But for now, rest in this truth. You are already enough, not because of what you do, but because of who I am and who I've said you are. Take a deep breath. Let the labels fall. Let the shame go. Let the striving cease. And let my voice be the only one that defines you from this day forward. Key 6. You have authority because you belong to me. You've learned who you are, not by the world's opinion, but by my truth. You've heard me call you mine. Now it's time to learn how to live from that identity, not just accept it. And that begins with something most of my children underestimate: spiritual authority. You see, too many of my people walk through life feeling defeated, afraid of the dark, burdened by fear, silenced by shame. They whisper prayers, but they don't realize the weight those prayers carry. They fight battles, but forget they've already been given the victory. They beg for power, not knowing they're already clothed in it. So let me say this clearly to you right now. If you belong to me, you carry my authority, not because you've earned it, not because you've memorized enough verses, not because you never fall. You carry authority because you carry my spirit. And where my spirit dwells, heaven backs every word, every prayer, every declaration spoken in faith. Remember what I said before I returned to the Father? All authority in heaven and on earth has been given to me. Therefore, go. That wasn't just a poetic farewell. That was a transfer. I was saying, what was given to me is now extended through you. not to glorify you, but to glorify me through your life. But here's the truth. Many of you are walking through battles with your heads bowed, not realizing that you were never meant to fight from a place of fear, but from a place of victory. Let me remind you of this. You don't fight for victory, you fight from it. Let that settle into your bones. Let it reshape the way you face your battles. Because when you understand your spiritual authority, fear begins to retreat. Doubt loses its grip. The enemy's lies fall flat. You start praying with confidence, walking in boldness, speaking with clarity. You become dangerous, not to people, but to darkness. But I want to be honest with you. Authority is not just about words, it's about alignment. The power of your voice in the spiritual realm is directly connected to the posture of your heart. That's why the enemy works so hard to distract, to divide, to discourage, because he knows a child of God who walks in identity and authority is unstoppable. So how do you walk in this authority? You walk in truth. You walk in obedience. You walk in faith. When you align your life with my word, not perfectly but sincerely, you create space for my power to flow through you. You become a vessel, not just someone who receives light, but someone who releases it. Remember the disciples. I sent them out 2 by 2. They weren't scholars, they weren't powerful in the world's eyes, but they carried my name, and that was enough. Demons fled, the sick were healed, heaven touched earth, not because they were extraordinary, but because they were available. And you, yes, you have the same spirit inside you, that same spirit that raised me from the dead, that same power that shook tombs open. That same breath that hovered over the waters in Genesis now lives in you. This is not poetry, this is reality. And the moment you believe it, everything begins to change. Say this with me. I walk in divine authority because Jesus lives in me. Write it in the comments if this is speaking to your soul. I have authority through Christ, not as a boast, but as a declaration, as a reminder, as a line drawn in the sand, a refusal to live one more day beneath your calling. Let me ask you something. How would you pray if you knew your words carried the weight of heaven behind them? How would you face temptation if you believed the Spirit of God was roaring within you? How would you walk through this life if you fully embrace that you are an ambassador of the kingdom, not just a survivor of circumstance? Because that's who you are. You've spent too long letting the enemy dictate the atmosphere in your home, in your mind, in your emotions. But it's time to take it back, not in anger, not in striving, in authority. Start with your space, walk through your home, speak peace over your walls, speak freedom over your thoughts, speak healing over your body, not as empty words, but as faith-filled declarations. Darkness doesn't leave when you feel strong. It leaves when you speak with authority. This is why I've been teaching you who you are, why I've been drawing you deeper, why you're here, reading these words now, because it's time. Time to step into the power that's always been yours. Time to stop shrinking when storms come. Time to stop retreating when resistance hits. Time to rise, time to speak. Time to walk like someone who knows whose they are. Let me show you how this works. In the wilderness, the enemy came to tempt me. He didn't come with obvious evil. He came with twisted words, half-truths, manipulations. But I didn't argue. I didn't plead. I responded with the word. It is written. That's authority. I didn't fight with emotion. I stood on truth, and I want you to do the same. The next time fear whispers, respond, it is written, God has not given me a spirit of fear, but of power, love, and a sound mind. The next time shame rises, say, it is written, there is now no condemnation for those who are in Christ Jesus. The next time doubt clouds your heart, declare, it is written, he who began a good work in me will carry it to completion. That's how you fight. That's how you stand. Not in your own strength, but in mine. You were never meant to live at the mercy of your emotions or circumstances. You were created to shift atmospheres with my presence. to walk into rooms carrying peace, to stand in storms with unshaken faith, to speak with authority, not arrogance, but confidence rooted in me. This is your inheritance, and it's time to stop living beneath it. So what's one area of your life where you've been letting fear or lies take control? What would it look like to reclaim that territory today? Not with striving, not with shouting, but with truth, with presence, with authority. In the next key, I'll show you how this authority isn't just for battle, it's also for building. Because once you realize what you carry, you're not just meant to fight back darkness. You're meant to release light into your family, your community, your calling. But before we go there, I want you to sit with this truth. You are not powerless, you never were. Key 7, you were made to shine in the darkness. You were not placed in this world to simply endure the darkness. You were placed here to shine in it, to carry light. Not borrowed light, not artificial light, but the true light that flows directly from me. And I know that right now, more than ever, the world feels heavy. Shadows seem longer, the noise is louder, the battles are closer. And you've probably asked in the quiet of your heart, what difference can I make? But let me remind you of who you are. You are not a flicker struggling to stay alive. You are a lamp that I have lit with the fire of my spirit. And no matter how dark the world becomes around you, the light in you will never go out, because I am the one who sustains it. Let me take you back to the moment I stood before a crowd and declared something eternal. You are the light of the world. A city on a hill cannot be hidden. I didn't say you could be light, I said you are. That means shining is not optional. It's part of your identity. It's not something you do, it's something you are. But here's what the enemy wants. He wants you to doubt that. He wants you to think your light is too small, your influence too insignificant, your past too messy. He wants you to believe the lie that you have nothing to offer. But the truth is, your light has the power to change atmospheres. Because when you carry me, you carry transformation. You don't need a platform to shine. You don't need a microphone or a title or thousands of followers. You need only to show up with love, with kindness, with truth, with a posture that says, I'm here not to impress, but to bless. Let me paint a picture for you. A dark room, pitch black. One candle enters. What happens? Instantly, the darkness begins to retreat. Not because the candle is loud, not because the candle demands attention, simply because light always overcomes darkness. That's you. You walk into the workplace, into your home, into your relationships, into a hurting world, and when you carry me, the atmosphere changes. Maybe not with fireworks, maybe not with drama, but with presence, with peace, with the subtle but unstoppable power of my spirit. I know. It's tempting to believe that only spiritual giants can influence others, that unless you're a pastor, a leader, a teacher, you can't make an impact. But the truth is, I used fishermen, shepherds, overlooked women, forgotten children. I used those the world dismissed because I never look at credentials. I look at the heart. If your heart says, yes, I can use you, and if you've said yes, even quietly, even with trembling, then you are already carrying light into the places that need it most. Let me remind you of someone special, Esther. She was a young woman in a foreign land, chosen to be queen not for comfort, but for purpose. She didn't seek influence, but when the time came, she stepped into it. And through her obedience, a nation was saved. Do you remember the words spoken to her? Perhaps you were born for such a time as this. And I say the same to you now. Yes, you. Not the person you wish you were, not the future version of yourself with more answers and less insecurity. You, right now, with your story, your scars, your longing, your love. Perhaps you were born for such a time as this, because the world doesn't need perfect people. It needs lit ones, people who've encountered my presence and can't help but let it pour out. So let me ask you, where is your light needed right now? Is it in your family, where tension has built and peace feels far? Is it in your neighborhood, where loneliness lives behind closed doors? Is it in your mind, where lies have tried to take up permanent residence? Start there. Light doesn't need to shout to be seen, it simply needs to shine. Sometimes shining means offering encouragement when you feel discouraged yourself. Sometimes it means choosing integrity when compromise would be easier. Sometimes it means forgiving when revenge feels justified. These acts may feel small, but in the kingdom of God, they shake foundations. Write this in the comments as a prophetic declaration. My light is not small, it is divine. Let that be your answer to the voice that told you you're not enough. Let it be your reminder that you carry something eternal. You see, shining in the darkness is not about doing big things. It's about doing God things. Things that are born from my heart. Things like showing compassion when others turn away. Things like sitting with someone in their pain. Things like listening, serving, giving. Not for applause, but for love. You were never meant to hide. I know that fear makes you want to. Rejection makes you want to. Failure tries to convince you to dim yourself, but I didn't light your flame for it to be buried under shame or fear or pressure to fit in. I lit it so others could see me in you. Let's make this practical. Before you speak, ask, will this reveal light or conceal it? Before you post online, ask, am I shining light or casting shadows? Before you respond in anger, ask, is this the brightness of my love or the flash of my ego? Because light isn't just something you carry, it's something you steward. And when you steward your light well, even in hard seasons, it multiplies. And let me say this gently, if your light has dimmed, it's okay. I'm not here to scold you. I'm here to rekindle. I'm the God who doesn't snuff out a smoldering wick. I'm the one who breathes on flickering flames until they blaze again. All you have to do is bring your heart to me. I'll do the rest. Let me ask you something deeper now. What's holding you back from shining? Is it fear of rejection, comparison, exhaustion? Maybe you've been burned before, tried to shine, only to be misunderstood or pushed aside. I see that, and I'm healing that. But don't let it steal your purpose. Because someone out there is walking through a night so dark they can't find their way. And you, just by being you, just by carrying me, could be the light that leads them home. You don't have to have all the answers. You just have to be available. Let me shine through you, in your words, in your stillness, in your presence. Even in your weakness, I am strong. Even in your silence, I am loud. Even in your smallest act of love, I am revealed. And here's a truth you need to hear. You don't burn out when you burn from my spirit. When your light is fueled by your own strength, yes, you will grow tired. But when your source is me, your flame is sustained. So stay close. Let me be your oil, your rest, your refreshment. That's how you keep shining, not by doing more, but by remaining in me. I want you to imagine something now, a city on a hill, not just one light, but many, homes filled with warmth, streets lit with peace, darkness pushed back by unity. That's what happens when my people rise together, when they refuse to hide, when they choose to shine not alone, but side by side. That's what I see when I look at you and this community right now, a movement of light. And in the next key, I'll show you what that looks like on a greater scale. Because once you learn to shine individually, I begin to position you corporately, not just as one flame, but as part of a holy fire that sweeps through generations. But for now, here is your prayer. Jesus, make me a vessel of light, not for my glory, but for yours, not in my strength, but in yours. Shine through me, in every word, every act, every breath. You were born for this. Not to fear the dark, but to light it up. Key 8. I move through unity. You were never meant to shine alone. You were never meant to walk this path alone, not through the dark valleys, not across the uncertain waters, not even on the mountaintops of your victories. I created you for connection, not just with me, but with others who carry my light, who carry my name, and who are walking their own sacred journey toward me. You may feel strong on your own at times. You may even enjoy solitude. But there is a reason I place my spirit not just within you, but within my body. And my body is not one person. It is many. It is the hands and feet, the hearts and tears, the voices and prayers of my people, together. You see, the enemy knows something that many of my children often forget. There is explosive power in unity. That's why he works so hard to isolate you, to convince you that you're the only one struggling, that your pain is too unique, your sin too great, your questions too heavy, that no one else would understand, that hiding is safer than healing. But that is a lie. There is nothing more dangerous to darkness than a group of believers who love one another with the same love I gave them. A people united not by status, politics, or performance, but by me. A people who look different, speak different, walk different, and still choose each other. That's where I pour out my power. Do you remember what happened in the upper room? A small group, ordinary, uncertain, afraid, gathered not to perform, but to wait together. They didn't know when I would move, only that I had promised I would. So they stayed. They prayed. They clung to one another in faith. And when the Spirit came, it didn't come in part. It came in power, tongues of fire, wind that shook the walls, languages that crossed barriers, and a boldness that launched a movement still burning today. That's the power of unity. But it doesn't start with thousands. It starts with you, choosing connection over comparison, belonging over bitterness, love over judgment. I know community hasn't always been easy for you. I see the scars, the betrayals, the loneliness you've felt even when surrounded by people. I see the walls you've built, the exits you've memorized in case love fails you again. But I also see your longing to be seen, to be known, to be safe. And I want you to know, you are not too broken to belong. You are not too much. You are not too late. You are not the exception to grace. When I look at you, I don't see someone disqualified. I see someone essential, someone with a voice, a testimony, a light that others need. Not because you've arrived, but because you're still walking, and in your walking others find hope. That's how the body works. That's how my body works. The hand cannot say to the foot, I don't need you. The eye cannot say to the ear, you are less important. You are interdependent, not codependent, not irrelevant, but designed to reflect me more clearly together than alone. Let me tell you something the enemy never wants you to realize. You grow faster in community. Why? Because it's there, in the presence of others, that your love is refined, your humility is tested, your patience stretched, your forgiveness deepened. You become more like me when you love like me. And that can only happen face to face, heart to heart, life with life. It's easy to love people from a distance, but it's in the day-to-day, in the imperfection, the conflict, the misunderstanding, that you become a vessel of my grace. So don't run from community because of its messiness. Run into it with courage, knowing that where 2 or 3 are gathered in my name, I am there. Let me ask you this. Who are you walking with? Not just liking posts or attending services or sending the occasional prayer hand emoji. Who really knows your battles? Who hears your fears? Who speaks truth when you're tempted to believe lies? If the answer is no one, then come closer. Because I'm calling you not just into intimacy with me, but into unity with others. A circle of faith, a family, a fire. And if that doesn't exist around you yet, then let it begin with you. You don't need to wait for perfect conditions. You don't need to have all the answers. Just start. Send the message. Make the call. Open your door. Invite someone into the light you carry. Sometimes revival begins with a single coffee, a single confession, a single act of intentional love. And here's something holy. As you connect, you'll begin to see yourself more clearly, because community acts like a mirror. It reflects not just your strengths, but your blind spots. It calls out what you've buried. It celebrates what you can't yet see in yourself. And it offers grace when you fall. Don't fear that. I place that mirror in your life not to shame you, but to shape you. Because alone, your light is a candle. Together, your lights are a wildfire. Now let me take you to my prayer, the one I prayed right before I went to the cross. Do you remember what I asked the Father? That they may be one as we are one. Of all the things I could have prayed, for miracles, boldness, power, I prayed for oneness. Because I knew what the world would face. I knew how division would creep in. I knew how easy it would be for my children to turn on each other instead of toward each other. And I knew the greatest witness to the world would not be your preaching, your buildings, your programs. It would be your love for one another. The world is desperate for something real, something safe, something sacred. And when they see you love one another, across boundaries, through failures, without agenda, they see me. That's why this matters so much. So if you're holding on to unforgiveness right now, let it go. If you're isolated because of past wounds, come home. If pride has kept you from reaching out, humble yourself. Because your next breakthrough may not come through a private revelation, it may come through a shared one. You may be one honest conversation away from healing, one prayer prayed with someone else away from deliverance, one act of reconciliation away from revival. Let me say this clearly. The next move of God on the earth will not come through one voice. It will come through many voices united under one name, not competing, not comparing, but building together, burning together, bowing together in love and truth. And I want you to be part of it. Say this aloud now. I was created for community, and I choose to walk in unity. If this is stirring something deep in your heart, write it in the comments as a step of faith. Jesus, connect me to the people you've prepared for me. Let that be your cry, because I have divine alignments for you. Relationships that sharpen you, friendships that heal you, mentors that lift you, communities that carry you when you can't walk on your own. And you, yes, you, will also be that for someone else. You'll be the one who listens, who intercedes, who speaks life, who welcomes the broken and helps them rise. Don't wait until you feel ready. You're ready now, because your readiness isn't based on your perfection, but on your surrender. So go, build the bridge, make the first move, open your life, start the fire, because the world doesn't need another spectacle. It needs a family. It needs a people so united in love, so filled with light, so rooted in me, that even hell trembles at the sound of their worship. This is where the fire falls, not just on the individual, but on the altar of unity. And in the next key, I will show you how to carry this fire into your purpose, because community is not the end, it's the foundation. From it flows calling, vision, destiny, and you, my child, have a role to play in this unfolding story of redemption. But for now, rest in this. You are not alone. You were never meant to be. You are part of something holy, something global, something eternal, and that is the beginning of revival. Key 9. You were called to transform, not just survive. You've come a long way with me. You've walked through surrender. You've waited with me in the silence. You've listened for my whisper. You've chosen to follow me again and again. You've received your true identity. You've stepped into authority. You've begun to shine, and you've understood the power of community. Now it's time to uncover the reason I've been building all this in you. It's time to live not just as someone who survives the storms of life, but as someone who transforms the world around you. Because my plan for your life was never just to rescue you from darkness. It was to send you back into it, carrying the fire of heaven in your chest. I didn't save you to sit still. I saved you so that others could see me through you. You were made for impact. Not the kind the world measures in followers, fame, or numbers, but the kind that shifts generations. The kind that breaks chains in secret places. The kind that awakens dead hearts with just a word, a glance, a prayer. The kind that sets atmospheres ablaze just by stepping into the room carrying my presence. You were not saved to hide. You were not healed to be silent. You were not called to blend in. You were anointed to advance the kingdom of God on earth, and that starts with one simple truth. You carry my presence. Everywhere you go, the grocery store, the living room, your job, your church, your friendships, you are a mobile sanctuary. You don't need a pulpit to preach, a stage to lead, or a title to influence. You carry my spirit, and that alone makes you a force in the unseen realm. Let me tell you a secret. The enemy is far more afraid of your obedience than your appearance. He's not intimidated by how loud you are, how polished your words are, or how well you're known. But when you say yes to me, again and again, in the hidden places, that's where transformation begins. Think about Moses. He was just a man, broken, stuttering, uncertain. But when he met me in the fire, he stopped hiding. He stopped settling. And his simple obedience led to the deliverance of an entire nation. That same fire burns in you. But here's the part many of my children struggle to believe. Your calling doesn't have to look like anyone else's. I'm not calling you to copy what others are doing. I'm not asking you to match their rhythm, their fruit, or their assignment. I am calling you to be fully, fearlessly you. The version of yourself that exists when you're in full agreement with what I've placed in you. Some of you are called to build, others to intercede, some to write, some to teach, some to mother children in my love, some to be a bridge in broken places, some to plant churches, others to plant seeds in quiet conversations no one else sees. But all of you, every single one of you, were made to transform something. The key is to stop asking, God, what should I do? And start asking, Jesus, what are you doing? And how can I join you? Transformation isn't about striving, it's about partnering. When you realize that I'm already moving, in your city, your family, your workplace, your calling becomes clear. Walk with me and release what I've given you wherever you go. That might look like praying over someone when they least expect it, speaking life into someone who's believed lies for too long, starting something small, faithful, and unseen, like a Bible study in your living room, showing radical love to someone who's never felt safe in their entire life, bringing prophetic clarity to confusion in a friend's heart, standing for justice when it would be easier to stay quiet. Every single one of these is transformation. Every one of them releases heaven into earth. Let me say something you need to hear. Transformation doesn't begin with doing more. It begins with being present. You don't need to fix every person or solve every problem. You only need to show up with me. And when you show up surrendered, sensitive, and spirit-filled, I will move. Sometimes fast, sometimes slow, but always with purpose. Let's break something off your heart right now, the lie that says, I'm not qualified. I've never used perfect people. I've never waited until someone had it all together. I've always called the willing, the open, the surrendered, and when you offer me your not enough, I pour out my more than enough. Remember the boy with 5 loaves and 2 fish. He didn't feed the crowd, I did, but I used what he had. Your obedience is your offering, and I will multiply it beyond what you can imagine. So stop asking if you're ready. Ask if you're willing to speak, willing to move, willing to be misunderstood for righteousness' sake, willing to let me stretch you into spaces that feel too big, because that's where faith grows, and that's where transformation happens. Let me ask you something personal. What has your heart been stirred to do, but fear has kept you from stepping into? Maybe it's launching something. Maybe it's saying something. Maybe it's finally laying down the fear of man and doing what I've whispered to you in secret for years. Whatever it is, the time is now. Don't wait for perfect clarity. Start with perfect surrender. Say this aloud now. Jesus, use me to transform the world around me, not for my glory, but for yours. And if your heart is burning with confirmation, write in the comments, I was made for more than survival. I was made to bring transformation. Let that be your prophetic declaration, because there's a move of God waiting to be birthed through your life. Not someday, not somewhere else, but here, now. And remember, transformation doesn't always look dramatic. Sometimes it looks like saying no to bitterness when you've been wronged, forgiving someone who hasn't apologized, waking up early to pray when your flesh begs to sleep, staying faithful to what seems small, because obedience is never small in my eyes. I see everything, and I use everything. Even your disappointments become soil when surrendered to me. Even your delays carry purpose. Even your pain carries the fragrance of resurrection. Because when you walk with me in the power of the Spirit, you become a living signpost to the world, a testimony that says, He's alive, He's real, and He transforms everything He touches. So don't shrink back. This world doesn't need another echo. It needs your authentic voice. It doesn't need more noise. It needs a sound that carries heaven's authority. It doesn't need perfect vessels. It needs broken ones filled with glory. And you, yes, you have everything you need to begin. The Holy Spirit is your guide. The Word is your foundation. My presence is your power, and love is your message. In the next key, we'll talk about what it means to sustain transformation, how to stay on fire without burning out. Because what I start in you, I long to establish. I don't just want sparks, I want sustained flames, a life that doesn't flicker in trials, but blazes through them. But for now, breathe in this truth. You were never just meant to survive this life. You were meant to shape it, shift it, sanctify it by walking with me and releasing my kingdom, one step at a time. Key 10, stay ablaze. The rhythm of a life that burns without burning out. You've stepped into purpose. You've seen glimpses of transformation. You've said yes to the call, and you've begun to feel what it means to live filled, to move with my Spirit, to touch others with heaven's weight through your simple obedience. But now, I need to teach you how to sustain the fire I've placed in you, because many start strong. Many say yes in moments of glory, when the presence feels thick, when the calling feels clear, when the vision shines brightly before their eyes. But fewer learn how to endure. Fewer learn how to remain ablaze when the feelings fade, when the path narrows, when the applause turns to silence, and when the crowd no longer follows. And I want you to be one who remains, because the fire I've given you is not just for moments, it's for the long road. It's not a spark that flares and fades. It's a flame meant to light generations. But here's the truth, even divine fire needs tending, even holy passion needs protection. Even my chosen ones can burn out if they confuse movement with intimacy or calling with connection. So let me speak gently now. Don't confuse the work of God with the walk with God. You can serve me and still forget me. You can pray for others and forget to sit at my feet. You can build something big and yet let your soul grow small from neglect. And I don't want that for you. I want you burning with love, not burning out from pressure. I want you rooted like a tree beside living water, not a branch snapped off by the wind of expectation. So how do you sustain the flame? It begins here. Return to me daily, not out of duty, not out of guilt, but because I am your source. You were never meant to live off yesterday's encounter. Manna was fresh every morning. because I knew what worked for today's strength would not carry you through tomorrow. That's why I call you to come back to me, in the quiet, in the stillness, before the world speaks, before the noise builds, before the demands rise. Come first to me. Let my presence be your starting place, not your emergency room. Let my voice set the tone before any other. Let my word wash your mind before the world can shape your emotions. This rhythm, this daily abiding, is what keeps your spirit nourished when the wilderness stretches long. Say it now, with simple faith. I return to you daily, Jesus. You are my rhythm. You are my rest. Let me take you to a familiar story. Mary and Martha. Martha was doing good things, necessary things. She was serving, preparing, working hard, but her heart grew anxious, frustrated, drained. Why? Because she forgot what was best. Mary chose it, not by being lazy, but by being present. She sat at my feet, she listened, she received, and I told them something that still echoes today. Mary has chosen what is better, and it will not be taken from her. You see, the flame of purpose is fed not by productivity, but by proximity. The closer you remain to me, the brighter your flame. This is not about retreating from the world forever. It's about returning to me consistently, so that when you go into the world, you go filled, not dry. So build a secret place. It doesn't have to be a perfect space. It doesn't need candles or music or eloquent prayers, just intention, just consistency, just a heart that says, I want to be with you. You may not always feel something, you may not always hear something, but I promise you I'm always there, and every time you show up in faith, you're fanning the flame. But that's not the only rhythm that sustains. You must also learn to rest, not just sleep, not just a day off. I'm talking about sacred rest. The kind that trusts me enough to stop, to breathe, to release control, to say, it's not all up to me. The world will try to convince you that rest is weakness, that stopping means falling behind. But I modeled rest for you, even in creation. 6 days I worked. On the 7th I stopped, not because I was tired, but because I was setting a pattern. I was teaching you something holy. Rest is resistance. It's spiritual warfare in a culture that worships hustle. It's a declaration that says, my worth is not in what I produce. My identity is not tied to how much I do. My value is in who I belong to. And rest protects the fire. Because when you neglect rest, you become vulnerable. Your discernment dulls. Your emotions take over. Your zeal turns into burnout. And your yes becomes a burden rather than a blessing. So I'm asking you now, will you let me lead your rhythms, not just your ministry, not just your dreams, but your day? Ask me where to say yes and where to say no. Ask me where to go and where to stay. Ask me not just what should I do today, but what should I lay down today? Because not everything that's good is from me, and not everything that glitters is gold. Some opportunities are distractions in disguise, and I love you too much to let you waste your fire. Now let me speak to the area few people address: disappointment. Because sometimes it's not the work or the warfare that burns you out, it's the weariness of unanswered prayers, the weight of expectations that didn't unfold the way you hoped, the fatigue of sowing faithfully and seeing little fruit. You wonder, did I miss it? Was I wrong? Is this really what he called me to do? Hear me now. Disappointment is not failure. Delay is not denial. Silence is not absence. I'm still with you. I'm still writing your story. And often, what looks like delay is actually deep work in your spirit, root work, foundation work, preparing you to hold the weight of the glory that is coming. Don't quit in the middle. Don't stop because it's hard. Don't let disappointment turn into disobedience. Instead, bring it to me. Every question, every ache, every sigh that rises in the quiet places of your soul, I can hold it, I can carry it. and I can turn it into strength. Even ashes become beauty in my hands. And here's one more rhythm: joy. Joy is not a luxury for good days. It's a weapon for every day. When you laugh, when you dance, when you celebrate the small things, you're declaring, I am not a slave to sorrow. I am anchored in eternal hope. The joy of the Lord is not just a phrase. It is your strength, the oil that keeps your fire burning through the midnight hours. So find joy in the process, in the small wins, in the sacred ordinary. Find joy not in what you achieve, but in who you're becoming. And know this, you don't have to do this alone. Community sustains fire. Stay close to others who are burning too. Encourage one another. Pray for one another. Speak life. Stay accountable. Worship together. Carry each other's burdens. That's how the early church sustained the fire. That's how you will too. Let me ask you now, have you been trying to carry the fire on your own? Have you mistaken momentum for intimacy? Have you neglected the sacred rhythms I'm calling you into? Then pause, breathe, come back to me. Say this aloud now. Jesus, teach me to burn with love and not burn out from striving. And if you feel this in your spirit, write it in the comments as a prophetic step. I will protect the flame. I will return to the source, because what I've begun in you, I will sustain. But not by pressure, by presence, not by noise, by stillness, not by performance, by abiding. And in the next key, I'll teach you how to walk through spiritual warfare without fear, because the brighter you burn, the more the enemy notices. But fear not. I have already overcome the world, and you are not called to fight for victory, but from it. But for now, rest in this. The flame in you is holy. Protect it, tend it, feed it, and trust me to sustain it, one sacred rhythm at a time. Key 11. You're not fighting for victory, you're fighting from it. There's something I want you to understand deep in your spirit. You are in a battle, but it is not a battle you were meant to fight in your own strength. And it is not a battle where the outcome is uncertain. You are not a helpless wanderer in a war zone. You are a child of the King, fully armed, fully seen, fully protected. I know you felt the pressure, the invisible weight, the unexplainable heaviness. The cycles that seem to repeat even when you're doing everything right. And maybe you've whispered this in the dark. Why does it feel like I'm under attack? Because you are. And that's not to scare you. That's to awaken you. The enemy doesn't pursue what doesn't threaten him. He doesn't chase what isn't moving toward my kingdom. He doesn't waste energy on what's already stuck. But you've been saying yes to me. You've been drawing near. You've been stepping into purpose, reclaiming identity, choosing holiness over comfort, intimacy over performance. And hell noticed. But hear me now. The presence of warfare is not the absence of my protection. It's often the evidence of your alignment with heaven. And though you feel the fight, you are not fighting alone. I am with you. I go before you. I surround you. And I have already given you everything you need, not just to endure, but to overcome. You need to understand this. You are not fighting for victory. You're fighting from it. The victory was sealed at the cross. The enemy was disarmed. His power was broken. And now he uses one tactic above all: deception. He wants you to forget who you are. He wants you to feel outnumbered. He wants you to doubt what you carry. Because if he can't steal your salvation, he'll try to steal your confidence. But I'm here now to remind you of what's true. Let's begin with this. You are equipped. You are not standing unarmed. I have given you my armor, not just metaphorically, but spiritually. Each piece is a reality you must wear, speak, and carry daily. The belt of truth, to hold everything together when lies try to unravel you. The breastplate of righteousness, to guard your heart, not by your goodness, but by mine. the shoes of peace, to stand firm when the ground around you shakes, the shield of faith, to extinguish the enemy's fiery darts before they reach your mind. The helmet of salvation, to protect your thoughts and remind you who you belong to. The sword of the Spirit, my word, living and active, sharper than anything hell can throw at you. This isn't decoration, this is defense. This is how you walk through fire and come out unburned. But even more than armor, I've given you authority. You don't need to scream to be powerful. You don't need to see demons flee to know that they do. You carry the authority of heaven, not because of who you are, but because of who is inside you. I told you already, all authority in heaven and on earth has been given to me. Therefore go. That wasn't symbolic. That was a legal transfer. You carry my name. And when you pray, when you speak, when you take a stand, the spiritual realm listens. Not because you shout loud enough, but because you believe deeply enough. Do you remember when I sent out the 72? They came back rejoicing, Lord, even the demons submit to us in your name. And I told them, I saw Satan fall like lightning from heaven. But I also said this, don't rejoice that the spirits submit to you. Rejoice that your names are written in heaven, because authority is not about control, it's about identity. You're not just a soldier, you're a son. You're not just in the army, you're in the family. And your authority flows from your intimacy with me. But what about when the battle feels endless? What about when you've done all you know to do, and still the anxiety whispers, the temptation knocks, the shadows linger? Then you stand. That's what I told you in Ephesians 6. After you've put on the armor, stand. When the wind is loud, stand. When the temptation is real, stand. When your prayers feel unanswered, stand. When fear creeps in, stand. Not in your own strength, in mine. Because your posture in battle determines your perspective. When you kneel before me, you stand before anything. And when you stand in me, no weapon formed against you will prosper. That's not a promise of ease. It's a promise of victory. The weapon may form, the attack may come, but it will not win, because I'm teaching you how to endure, how to fight without fear, how to recognize the enemy's schemes before they entangle you. Let's talk about those schemes. He is the accuser. He'll remind you of every mistake. He'll replay old shame like a movie you didn't ask to watch. He'll whisper, you're not really free. You haven't really changed. That's why you need to know the word, not just vaguely, but intimately. Not just as verses you quote, but as truth you live. When he accuses, you answer, there is no condemnation for those who are in Christ Jesus. When he tempts, you declare, I've been crucified with Christ, and I no longer live, but Christ lives in me. When he tries to steal your hope, you proclaim, the Lord will fight for me. I need only to be still. You don't fight lies with willpower. You fight lies with truth. And the truth is, you are not weak. You are not losing. You are not alone. You are more than a conqueror through me who loves you. Let me speak now to those who've grown weary. You've been in a long battle, the kind that drains you not just physically, but spiritually. You've questioned whether the breakthrough will ever come, whether the healing will ever manifest, whether the warfare is a sign you're failing. No, child. It's a sign that you're important, that your prayers matter, that your worship shifts atmospheres, that your yes to me is shaking something in the spirit, even if you haven't seen it yet in the natural. Sometimes the fiercest battles come right before the greatest breakthroughs. Don't let go now. Let your tears become fuel. Let your groans become prayers. Let your weakness become your altar. Because it's not about how strong you feel. It's about who holds you. And I do. I held David in caves. I held Daniel in lions' dens. I held Esther in palaces. I held Paul in prisons. I will hold you too. So rise up, warrior, not in striving, in faith. Pick up your sword again. Clothe yourself in truth. Worship like the walls are already down. Pray like you've already won. Declare like chains have already broken, because they have. In the unseen, the victory is already yours. Say this aloud with me. I don't fight for victory, and I fight from it. Jesus, you are my banner, my strength, and my shield. And if this truth is resonating with your soul, write in the comments as an act of faith, I will stand. I will fight. I will not back down. This is not the end of your story. This is the middle of your war song. This is where the tide turns. This is where you stop living in fear and start walking in divine authority. You don't have to wait for the storm to stop. You speak to it. You don't have to let the enemy trespass anymore. You drive him out. You don't have to wonder if you're allowed to take up space in this battle. You were born for this. And in the next key, I'll show you how to walk in discernment, how to recognize my voice more clearly in a world filled with noise, how to navigate spiritual deception, and how to stay aligned with my spirit when the lines around you blur. But for now, hear this. The fight is real, but the victory is already won. And I am with you in every step, every swing, every silence, every roar. So rise and fight, and never forget, you're fighting from victory. Key 12. Discern my voice. Walk in clarity. When the world is loud, you've learned how to stand in battle. You've stepped into purpose. You've begun to burn with my presence and walk in authority. But now, I want to take you deeper into something quieter, but just as powerful. Something many overlook, yet few can live without. Discernment. Because in this world, the greatest danger is not always what's loud or evil or obvious. It's often what's almost true, what's almost right, what sounds good but carries no power, what looks holy but lacks my spirit. And that's why you must learn to hear my voice clearly, not just in moments of desperation, not just when you feel spiritual, but every day, in the silence, in the noise, in the questions, in the decisions no one else sees, because the ones who walk closely with me aren't the ones who know the most. They're the ones who listen the most. And I want you to be one of them. Discernment is not just the ability to tell right from wrong. It's the ability to tell right from almost right. It's knowing when to act and when to wait, when to speak and when to be still. When something is sent by me, and when something only looks like it is. You've probably said this before. I just want to know what God is saying. And I want you to know, I am speaking. I have never stopped speaking. But learning to hear me clearly is not about trying harder. It's about coming closer. Let me take you back to the sheepfold. Do you remember what I said? My sheep hear my voice, and I know them, and they follow me. Notice what I didn't say. I didn't say, my perfect followers hear me. I didn't say, the ones with theological degrees. I said, my sheep, those who belong, those who stay near, those who recognize my sound, not because they've memorized it, but because they've been with me. That's how discernment grows, not from striving, but from staying close. Think of a child who grows up listening to their mother's voice. Even in a room filled with noise, that child can pick out her tone from across the crowd, not because they studied it, but because they've known it. The same is true with me. The more you dwell in my word, the more you recognize my whisper. The more you walk with me, the more sensitive your spirit becomes. And suddenly, what once felt cloudy starts to feel clear. What once felt confusing starts to settle. You begin to recognize what's me and what's not. But here's where many get stuck. They expect my voice to be dramatic, loud, obvious. And yes, sometimes I speak that way, in dreams, in visions, in clear direction. But often, I speak like I did to Elijah, not in the fire, not in the earthquake, not in the wind, but in a still, small voice. That's why silence matters. Because discernment doesn't grow in chaos, it grows in quiet. So if you want to hear me more clearly, make space, not just externally, but internally. Turn down the volume of the world, step away from the noise, fast from the opinions that pull you in every direction, and come away with me. Let your heart become familiar with the sound of peace, because that's what my voice brings. Not confusion, not pressure, not anxiety, peace. Whenever you hear something that leaves you fearful, frantic, or condemned, test it. Ask yourself, does this align with my word? Does this lead me closer to Jesus or drive me away? Does it produce faith or does it paralyze me? Because my voice corrects, yes, but it also restores. It convicts, but always leads back to hope. It guides, not with force, but with gentleness. That's how you know it's me. And as you grow in discernment, you'll begin to sense things before they unfold. You'll walk into a room and feel what's unspoken. You'll read something and know this is not from him. You'll hear opportunities that look good on paper, but something inside you will whisper, this is not your assignment. That is not paranoia. That is not overthinking. That's discernment. And it's one of the most vital gifts I want to awaken in you, because you live in a world of many voices, social media, culture, friends, influencers, even spiritual leaders who claim to speak for me. And if you don't know how to test the spirits, you'll be tossed like a wave in the wind, moved by every headline, every opinion, every emotional reaction. But I didn't call you to be reactive. I called you to be rooted, and discernment roots you. Let's talk now about how to cultivate discernment practically. First, stay in the Word, not just occasionally, not just when you're looking for an answer. Let my word live in you richly, because my voice will never contradict what I've already spoken. The more familiar you are with Scripture, the easier it becomes to recognize counterfeits. Second, pray for wisdom. I promised it. I said in James 1:5, if anyone lacks wisdom, let him ask of God, who gives generously to all without finding fault. That includes you. Ask daily, constantly, about big things, small things, every decision, every relationship. Third, pay attention to peace. Peace isn't a luxury, it's a signal. If you're walking with me, peace will follow, even in hard decisions. If peace is absent, pause. Don't move forward just because the door is open. Wait for peace to walk through it with you. Fourth, test what you hear. Even if it comes from a spiritual source, even if it feels right. My spirit is not offended by your testing. In fact, I invite it, because I want you grounded, not gullible. Test the fruit, test the motives, test the alignment. And fifth, surround yourself with others who discern. Community helps sharpen discernment. When you're unsure, bring it to trusted, mature believers, not to gossip, not for validation, but for clarity, because I often speak confirmation through my body. And let me say this, discernment is not suspicion. It's not judgment. It's not pride dressed up as caution. True discernment flows from love. It sees beyond the surface, but it never condemns. It warns, but it also weeps. It protects, but it also pursues. And here's a truth the enemy hates. A discerning believer is a powerful believer, because when you know my voice, you can't be manipulated by the counterfeit. You can't be lured into every trend, every movement, every emotionally driven reaction. You become anchored, you become dangerous to deception, and you become a safe place for others to come and hear me through you. Because people are hungry, they're looking for clarity, they're tired of the noise. And when they encounter someone who carries discernment, not arrogance but wisdom, they feel it, they know it, and they open their hearts. That's what I'm forming in you now, a heart that listens, a spirit that sees, a voice that cuts through fog, a life that reflects truth. Let me ask you now, what voices have been shaping your decisions lately? What noise have you allowed to drown out my whisper? What opinions have weighed heavier than my peace? It's time to return, back to stillness, back to the secret place, back to the simplicity of a heart that says, "Speak, Lord, I'm listening." Say it aloud now. Jesus, teach me to hear your voice above all others. And if this part of the journey is stirring something deep in your soul, write in the comments, "I choose your voice, Jesus," because when you choose my voice, you choose clarity, you choose wisdom, you choose peace, and that path will never lead you wrong. In the next key, I'll take you into something sacred, how to carry my heart for others, because discernment is not just about protecting yourself, it's about loving others well. And when you know my voice, I will begin to share my heart, my compassion, my burden, my intercession. But for now, rest in this truth. My voice is not far. It's not rare. It's not reserved for the elite. It's here. It's present. It's speaking. And your heart was created to hear it. Key 13, carry my heart, becoming a vessel of compassion and divine love. Now that you've learned to hear my voice, I want to teach you how to carry something even deeper, my heart, because it's possible to walk in truth, to speak with authority, to stand with discernment, and yet still miss what matters most to me, love. Not just love as an idea, not just kindness in moments, but the fullness of my heart, burning in you, flowing through you, touching others in ways only I can. You see, power without love is empty. Truth without compassion is harsh. Discernment without tenderness can become suspicion. But when you carry my heart, when you feel what I feel, weep where I weep, move as I move, you don't just represent my kingdom. You reflect my nature. And that, beloved, is the highest call, because my heart is the core of everything I do. It is the reason I created, the reason I came, the reason I endured the cross, the reason I still pursue, still wait, still whisper grace to those who run from me, and I want to share it with you, not just so you know about me, but so you feel what I feel. Let me ask you, when was the last time you paused in prayer and asked, "Jesus, what is your heart feeling today?" Not just, "What do you want me to do?" Not just, "What's your will for my life?" But, "What are you feeling, Lord?" That's where intimacy begins to shift from conversation to communion. Because I'm not a distant God handing out commands. I'm a person. I feel, I grieve, I rejoice, and I long to share that with you, not just so you carry my message, but so you carry my emotion with it. Let me take you to one of the most powerful moments in my life on earth, when I stood outside the tomb of Lazarus. Everyone was watching. Everyone expected me to perform a miracle. And I did, but not before I wept. I knew resurrection was coming. I knew death would lose. But I still cried, not because I lacked power, but because I was moved by love. That's my heart, powerful enough to raise the dead, tender enough to sit in sorrow first. And that's the heart I want to shape in you. Because when you begin to walk with my heart, you start to see people differently. You stop labeling, you stop rushing, you stop using ministry as a task list. You begin to feel the weight of souls, not just their behaviors, but their brokenness. You begin to hear the cry behind the anger, to see the pain behind the pride, to sense the trauma behind the silence. You stop needing people to act perfect before you offer love, and you stop offering love in exchange for behavior. Because when you carry my heart, you love first, even when they don't understand you, even when they reject you, even when they hurt you. Because you're not loving from your own capacity, you're loving from mine. But here's the truth. You cannot carry my heart if you are not willing to be moved by pain, because love costs something. It's not sentimental, it's not convenient, it's sacrificial. And real love will break your heart at times. You'll feel burdened when others are numb. You'll cry for people who curse you. You'll forgive before anyone asks for it. You'll hold space for healing even when your arms are tired. And yes, sometimes you'll feel alone in your compassion. But I will be there. Because you are carrying my heart. Do you remember when I looked over Jerusalem? I didn't just plan strategy, I wept. I said, "Oh, Jerusalem, how I long to gather you like a mother hen gathers her chicks, but you were not willing." That was not performance. That was pain, and I still feel it every time someone turns away from grace. Every time religion crushes a heart, I came to rescue. Every time my children choose control over communion. But I don't stop loving. And I don't want you to either. Let me speak to something deeply personal now. Some of you have been afraid to feel again. You've been burned by love. You've poured yourself out and been betrayed. You've extended grace and been misunderstood. You've said, "I don't want to care so much. I don't want to feel so deeply anymore." But I say to you gently, don't harden your heart. Yes, boundaries matter. Yes, wisdom protects, but don't let wounds turn into walls. Because when you shut out pain, you often shut out compassion too. And when you stop feeling, you stop moving like me. Instead, bring me the pain. Let me heal it. Let me hold you in the moments when your empathy feels too heavy. Let me remind you, you were never meant to carry this alone, because when you carry my heart, I carry yours. Now, here's what it looks like practically. When someone wrongs you, don't just react. Ask Jesus, how do you see them? When someone opens up about their struggle, don't rush to fix them. First say, Jesus, show me how to love them. When you're in conflict, don't just seek to win. Seek to understand, seek to honor. And when you walk past someone who seems invisible, pause. Ask me what I see, what I feel, what they need. Because the greatest miracles don't always begin with power. They begin with compassion. That's why I healed the sick. That's why I fed the hungry. That's why I touched the leper, welcomed the outcast, wept with the grieving, and restored the rejected. I moved with compassion, and I still do. And if you let me, I will make you an extension of that compassion. You'll become a safe place for people who've never known safety, a refuge for the weary, a bridge for the broken, a light for those drowning in shame. Not because of your eloquence, not because of your qualifications, but because you've chosen to carry my heart. Say this aloud. Jesus, break my heart for what breaks yours. Fill me with the love that moves heaven. And if this is resonating deep in your soul, write in the comments, I want to carry the heart of Jesus. Let it be your response, your surrender, your invitation. Because when you carry my heart, you carry my mission. Not just to preach, not just to serve, but to love radically, in ways the world can't explain and religion can't control. And I want to share one more truth with you. When you carry my heart, you'll not only see others differently, you'll see yourself differently. You'll stop judging your worth by your performance. You'll stop condemning your weakness. You'll begin to see your story through the lens of redemption, not regret. You'll love yourself, not with pride, but with grace. Because you'll finally realize, I never loved you for what you could do. I loved you for who you are and who you're becoming in me. So, stay soft, even when the world tries to harden you, even when betrayal tempts you to shut down, even when religion tells you to keep it professional and polished. Stay soft, stay honest, stay present. That's where my heart lives. And in the next key, I'll take you into something that flows directly from love, intercession. Because when you carry my heart, you'll start to carry my burden, and your prayers will begin to shake things in the spirit. You'll learn what it means to stand in the gap, to pray with fire, to see heaven move, because you refuse to stay silent. But for now, rest in this. You were made to carry my heart, not as a burden, but as a fire. And the world needs that fire now more than ever. Key 14, stand in the gap, the transforming power of intercession. Now that you've begun to carry my heart, there is something I want to place in your hands, something that flows directly from compassion, something that shakes the unseen and brings heaven close, intercession. To intercede is more than prayer. It is a holy posture, a standing in between, a divine invitation to carry what others cannot carry for themselves. It is the quiet courage to kneel for someone else's breakthrough. The unshakable love that says, even if you can't fight right now, I'll fight for you. This is not glamorous, it is not always seen, but it is essential. And it moves more in the spirit than most sermons ever will. Do you know what I am doing even now at the right hand of the Father? I am interceding. I have not stopped since I ascended. I speak your name before the throne. I remind heaven that your debt has been paid, that your name is written, that your story is not over. And I invite you now to join me, not just in asking for your needs, but in standing in the gap for others, because intercession is love in action. It's the cry of a friend for their prodigal son. It's the midnight whisper of a mother weeping over her daughter's anxiety. It's the prayer of a believer who sees darkness in a nation and refuses to stay silent. It's when your spirit groans with words that don't make sense, but heaven understands. This is what I mean when I say, bear one another's burdens. You were not meant to carry everything alone, but neither were you meant to watch others drown while you remain safe on the shore. To intercede is to feel the ache that others ignore. And instead of turning away, you turn it into prayer, you turn it into worship, you turn it into warfare. Do you remember Abraham? When judgment hovered over Sodom, he didn't watch from a distance. He interceded, he pleaded. He stood in the gap saying, will you spare them if there are just 50, 40, 30, even 10? That was not weakness. That was bold love. That is intercession. Do you remember Moses? When Israel sinned and rebelled, I said I would start over with just him. But Moses fell on his face and said, if you don't go with us, don't send us. If you blot them out, blot me out too. That was not manipulation. That was broken-hearted advocacy. That is intercession. And do you remember me? In Gethsemane, I carried your name. On the cross, I bore your weight. In the grave, I crushed your separation. That was not just salvation, that was intercession incarnate. And now, I am looking for those who will do the same. Not because I need your power, but because I long to share my heart with you. And my heart always leans toward mercy. Let me ask you, who is God calling you to stand for right now? Who in your life is too weak to pray? Who is lost and doesn't know how to return? Who is entangled in addiction, in lies, in darkness? Who is on the brink of giving up and needs someone to whisper their name in the presence of God? That someone might need you. And I promise you, intercession is not reserved for the spiritually elite. It's not about fancy words. It's not about being loud. It's not about praying for hours with eloquence. Intercession is about faithful love. Even a single sentence, whispered in faith and drenched in compassion, can shake spiritual walls that have stood for decades. Let me make this clear. You have access. You are not praying into the air. You are stepping into the courts of heaven, and you are speaking with the backing of Jesus Christ, your high priest, your advocate, your savior. So pray with boldness, not because you have the answers, but because you know the one who does, not because you always feel strong, but because you trust that my Spirit prays through you even when you don't know what to say. Do you remember Romans 8:26? In the same way, the Spirit helps us in our weakness. We do not know what we ought to pray for, but the Spirit Himself intercedes for us through wordless groans. That's not poetry. That's reality. When you run out of words, I don't run out of power. When you groan, when you sigh, when you cry, I hear and I act. Let me teach you something sacred now. Intercession is not just vertical. It's not just you to me. It's also positional. Sometimes you pray for someone from a distance, but sometimes I will call you to step in, to show up, to be the answer to the very prayer you've been praying, because love doesn't always stay in the secret place. Sometimes it moves with feet. That's why I said, the harvest is plentiful, but the laborers are few. Some of your intercession will look like service, like visits, like phone calls, like forgiveness, like listening, like fasting in secret while someone else eats freely, unaware that your sacrifice is tearing down strongholds for them. That's holy, and heaven sees it. Intercession also brings alignment. When you pray for others, your heart begins to match mine. Your judgment melts into mercy. Your criticism softens into compassion. Your bitterness becomes burden. And soon you realize I am making you an intercessor not to feel superior, but to feel connected. Because the more you pray for someone, the less room there is for hatred in your heart. It's hard to despise what you weep for. It's hard to reject what you regularly bring before the throne of grace. And sometimes the person who annoys you most is the very one I want to heal through your prayers. So stay soft, stay humble, stay open. Let me also speak to those of you who've been interceding for a long time. You've been praying for your family, your church, your city, your nation, and you're tired. You haven't seen the change you expected. The prodigal hasn't returned. The door hasn't opened. The revival hasn't come. And you've wondered, is it even working? Hear me now. Yes, it is. Just because you can't see the roots growing doesn't mean the tree isn't taking shape. Just because the walls haven't crumbled yet doesn't mean the foundation isn't shaking. Your prayers have never been wasted. Not one. They have been stored in bowls in heaven, and I am faithful to pour them back out in my perfect timing. Don't stop now. Some of the greatest moves of God begin with years of invisible intercession. Do you remember Anna? She prayed for decades in the temple. Others forgot her. The world passed her by. But she saw me, the Messiah, with her own eyes. Because she refused to give up. And you won't either. Say this aloud with me. Jesus, I will stand in the gap. Not by might, not by power, but by your Spirit. And if this part of the journey has awakened your calling as an intercessor, write in the comments, I will pray, I will fight, I will not stop. Because I'm raising up an army, not with weapons, with worship, not with noise, with prayer, not with anger, with unshakable love. And in the next key, I'll show you what happens when intercession turns into revival. How your private prayers, your sacred groans, your quiet obedience become the spark that ignites transformation in families, churches, and nations. But for now, hear this. Every time you whisper a name before me, you are releasing power. Every time you say, God, remember them, heaven responds. Every time you kneel for someone else, you are walking in my footsteps. So keep praying, keep standing, keep believing. The gap needs you, and I am with you in it. Key 15. Revival begins with you, the flame that ignites the world. This is where it all leads. All the surrender, the waiting, the listening, the obedience, every hidden prayer, every whispered yes, every battle you fought in secret, everything I've taught you, formed in you, whispered to you in the dark. It was not just for your survival, it was for revival. Because revival doesn't begin in crowds, it begins in hearts. One heart, one moment, one life that is so surrendered, so aflame with my presence, that it cannot help but release heaven everywhere it goes. And now I ask you one final question. Will you carry the flame into the world? You don't need to wait for permission. You don't need a stage or a microphone. You don't need to be qualified in human terms. If you've walked with me through this journey, if my fire has found a home in your spirit, then you already carry everything you need. You are revival. Revival isn't only about miracles, it's about awakening, a holy shaking of what was once asleep. And there are people around you, in your home, your city, your church, who are spiritually asleep. They look alive, but inside they're dry, tired, drifting, numb. And your presence, your voice, your prayers, they carry the spark that can awaken them. So don't underestimate what I've placed in you. You carry revival when you forgive instead of curse. You worship when the answer hasn't come. You speak life into what looks hopeless. You love without expecting anything in return. You stay faithful to me when the crowd walks away. You create altars in your home, not just your church. You teach your children how to hear my voice. You show up again and again, burning with my spirit. That is revival. And the world needs it now more than ever. Because while the earth groans and systems shake and headlines change, my kingdom does not, my presence does not, and I'm still pouring out my spirit on all flesh, sons and daughters, young and old, dreamers and doers. You. Let me remind you of what happened on the day of Pentecost. They weren't in a stadium. They weren't on a campaign tour. They were together in one place, praying, waiting, burning. And suddenly, wind, fire, language, boldness. The same Peter who denied me days earlier was now preaching with unshakable courage. The same disciples who scattered in fear now stood in public, declaring my name without apology. And thousands were changed in a single moment. Why? Because I found a vessel that was ready. And now I'm asking, will you be that vessel? Will you let revival start with you? Not as a project, not as a brand, as a lifestyle. Because real revival is not a weekend event. It's a way of being. It's hosting my presence every day. It's walking with a sensitivity to my spirit, a hunger for my word, a tenderness to the broken, and a relentless love for me that nothing can shake. Revival isn't about hype, it's about holiness. Holiness that overflows from intimacy, not shame. Holiness that looks like joy in the mundane, like peace in chaos, like courage in crisis, like purity in a culture that calls compromise normal. You become different, and people notice. You carry a weight they can't explain, a light they can't ignore, a love they can't resist. And when they ask what's changed in you, you'll know exactly what to say. It's not me, it's Jesus alive in me. Let me speak to the fear now. I know what you might be thinking. What if I'm not ready? What if I burn out again? What if I'm too small to make a difference? But hear me. You were born for such a time as this. You are not too late. You are not too broken. And what I've begun in you, I will finish. The revival flame isn't sustained by your perfection, it's sustained by your surrender. Just stay yielded, stay humble, stay available. Because fire doesn't fall on performance, it falls on altars. And you, your life, your body, your heart, are the altar. So let the fire fall. Let it consume pride. Let it burn away shame. Let it refine motives. Let it purify desire. And then let it spread. Start with your home. Invite me into every room. Worship in the kitchen. Intercede in the hallway. Speak scripture in the living room. Bless your children while they sleep. Pray over your marriage. Dedicate your routine. Then take it to your church. Don't wait for someone else to bring revival. Be the one who worships with tears. Be the one who intercedes before service starts. Be the one who speaks truth when everyone else is quiet. Then take it to your city, your job, your school, the grocery store, the gas station. Revival walks with you because I walk with you. Let me ask you one last time. Are you ready to burn, not for a moment, but for a generation? Say it aloud. Jesus, let revival begin in me. And if this entire journey has changed something in your soul, write it in the comments right now. I will be the fire. I will carry revival. Because revival is not a prophecy for tomorrow. It's a call for today. You are the spark. You are the carrier. You are the living flame. And I, your king, your shepherd, your friend, I will walk with you every step of the way. So go now. Not in fear, in fire, not in doubt, in destiny, not to survive, but to awaken the world. Final words from my heart to yours. If you've walked through all 15 parts of this journey, then hear this now. Well done. You have sat at my feet. You have listened to my voice. You have allowed me to search you, heal you, stretch you, send you, and I am proud of you. Not because you got everything right, but because you stayed, you showed up, you let me love you, you let me teach you, and now you are ready. Your life is a testimony, your voice is a trumpet, your prayers are weapons, your love is proof that I am alive. So take this journey, everything we've built together, and carry it to your family, your community, your world. Because what began as a private fire is about to become a public flame. And I am with you to the very end of the age. Say amen in the comments if you receive this word. And never forget,